Thank you for clicking on the Literacy Volunteers of Harrison County's YouTube channel. We're a nonprofit United Way agency. We would love for you to subscribe to our channel by clicking on the bell icon below. Give us a thumbs up if you like these videos and share them with your friends. We are currently doing a series on the Hiset, which is the equivalent of the GED here in West Virginia and in other states. We're going through it step by step and giving some explanations of what to do, some things you will encounter, maybe to raise your score to give you a better outlook on the test. This is part 3, and in part 3 we're going to be talking about analyzing informational text. The first thing to analyze is the purpose of the text. Why is the author writing this text, right? Why is she writing the passage, he or she? Authors of nonfiction, those are true stories, have one or more of the following purposes. One is they want to narrate. They typically recount events chronologically. We've talked about this before. Chronos is time. So events as they occur in the order of time. If this is about your life, this person's writing an autobiography about themselves. They may want to start at the beginning and tell their story year after year after year, or in 10-year increments, or however they want to do it, but chronologically. Also, the writer might write to just inform. Author presents the facts and data to explain a subject, situation, or idea. We would usually see this in news articles or scientific findings in journal articles. You might read a journal to find out information the author did while doing research on chronic fatigue or doing research on the COVID vaccine. Different things, and you can glean information from that. That's what they'll put on the Hiset, some passages like that. They also might write to persuade. A lot of articles are written to persuade you to the author's point of view or to a general point of view. He wants to change the reader's minds, and the passage includes the author's opinions, also recommendations or conclusions. If you're reading political speeches, newspaper editorials, entertainment reviews, if someone is reviewing a movie, they're not giving you facts, they're telling you their opinion. And then you can deduce your opinion from that if you go to see the movie. The last thing they may do for writing that is to entertain. They're writing to just amuse people or interest their readers. Humorous memoirs or articles about celebrities. We're just telling you what this celebrity did on vacation. That's just to entertain you. That doesn't have any facts. It's not to persuade you to do anything, just for entertainment value. And a lot of people like to read just for entertainment value. What about the effectiveness of an argument? In reading and writing an argument, we consist of these things. The conclusion, that's the main point about why are we writing this article. The conclusion is the main point. You should get the COVID vaccine. You shouldn't get the COVID vaccine. You should plant your pea plants before April 15th. Things like that. That's the conclusion. The evidence is what is supporting that conclusion. Why is the author saying you should get the COVID vaccine? Why are they saying you shouldn't? Why are they suggesting you plant your pea plants before April 15th? What will happen if you plant them after? Those are evidences. The author's assumptions or ideas, the author takes for granted behind the argument. So if you're reading an article on planting pea plants, the author is assuming you like to work in the garden. You're not going to read this article if you're interested in the mechanics of a plane. It doesn't have anything to do with that. So the author assumes that you are also interested in this, or you would not be reading this article. Writers should provide supporting evidence for their argument. Otherwise, they're making an unsupported claim. That would be like the COVID vaccine. If they're just saying, I don't think you should take it because I don't like it, that's not evidence. They have to say, doctors have done this study. This has happened to this person. This percentage of this happens. So that you know more of what substantiates that argument, right? We want to read carefully because sometimes we have to infer their assumptions. We have to take all of the things that they have said about this and say, this is what we think the author thinks. And on some of those Hiset questions, they will ask you, what does the author mean when they say this? Well, they may not directly state what the author means when they say that. That's when you have to infer by all the information they've given you what the author means when they say that. We also have to look at the validity of arguments, valid, right? They're convincing, right? They're true. We need to analyze all that supporting evidence. So I've made a chart here for you that looks at supports for argument. Types of support, the description of that type, and the questions that you need to ask yourself when you're reading. The first type of support are the facts. That's very literal. Objective facts that can be tested or measured. 99% of people prefer to use Dial soap. We've surveyed 10,000 people, and 99% of them prefer Dial soap. That's a fact. That's something we can substantiate. Is this information complete, or is it partial or selectively chosen? A lot of times when you're reading something, the author can pull some evidence out, some facts, and say that this supports this, when in fact it does not. And so you have to ask yourself some questions. Data or statistics, right? The description of those, numerical data, it's either gathered or sampled, things that we've talked about there. We were gathering data from hospitals about COVID patients if we're reading that article. Do the numbers accurately represent the subject, and how were they gathered? Sometimes if you just do a random gathering of information, that's not good enough. Is it a specific survey? Different things like that. Or were they talking to people, interviewing them and talking to them? Examples or anecdotes, stories to demonstrate the truth. So if you walked up to someone and they told you their story, because that's the truth they believe, you're going to have to analyze that. Are the stories true, and are they relevant to this article that we're reading? What does this have to do with that subject? Authority. Testimonials from a recognized authority. A doctor said this, right? The dentist said this. A lawyer said that, depending on what we're reading about. Does this person have the authority behind what they're saying, the validity of our argument? Do they really know the issue, or is he or she a spokesman or a celebrity? If you're reading an article and they're citing celebrities and it's a scientific article, then it's not valid. You can't just say because they're a celebrity, they know this, because those two things don't really go together. And also causality, right? Assertions that one thing caused another thing to happen. We lost our home because a tornado struck. What is the causality in those two things? Is this really a cause, or are they just related facts? Things could be coincidental, right? Those are related facts, but that doesn't mean one caused the other. In addition to analyzing evidence, you need to be aware that sometimes the writers use emotional appeals based on fear, pity, or getting you to jump on the bandwagon. We can go back to our COVID article we were discussing. I suggest you get all of the COVID vaccines because you don't want to get COVID because people die of COVID. And that's an emotional plea. Unless they're giving you facts behind what happened and some professional evidences we talked about up here, statistics, authority, then you don't have to necessarily believe that article. Text related by theme or topic. You may need be asked to read related paired passages. Two passages that go together, they're related, and then you have to answer questions based on the understanding of both of those passages. How do they go together? They may be related by topic, what the passage addresses. These two articles are talking about a 4-day work week. Why should we have a 4-day work week? Or they could be related by theme, the writer's message about the topic. These two articles are written about the suffrage movement. That could be the theme. You need to understand each passage and it's on its own and be able to synthesize. That means to blend, to bring together the information from both passages to draw a conclusion. The question may say, based on these two passages, what relationship do both of these authors have to each other? They may ask you things like that. Also text with opposing arguments, to the degree, to the disagree, right? The suffrage movement was a good thing. It brought about rights to women. The suffrage movement was a bad thing. It set women back so many years. They ended up in prison. They starved to death. Different things like that. You may read two selections that have opposing arguments about the same topic. Read the passages and then think about the author's claims, what are they saying, and the assumptions, the thinking behind their position, and supporting evidence given by each author. So there are several things to think about when you're comparing these two articles with opposing views. And then you can make some inferences based on that. Also, text with related graphic information. On the Hiset test, there are a lot of questions that contain graphs, and they will ask you to deduce some information from this graph in order to be able better to answer the questions. When you read nonfiction, right, we talk about true things and informational texts, They are often accompanied by a graphic. If you look in your textbook from school, a magazine, or on a website, they may give you a graph. The graph is just an illustration, that's a picture or a drawing, right? Photograph or a diagram, a chart, those are all graphics. You have to combine the information that you read from those texts and look at the graphics to draw conclusions and make observations about how this graphic supports the information in the text. An example of a graphic here is the distribution of households by type. And then they go to one person alone here, two or more non-related people, a male that's the homeowner that rents with other families, a female that's the homeowner and the renters with other families, or husband and wife households. So if these two articles were talking about husband and wife households occur more often and they are more profitable a way to live. Now they ask you a question, do husband and wife households occur more often? The article said they did, and this graph gives us a percentage, a greater percentage than any of these. So you may be asked to put all of those together and synthesize information. This is the series on the Hiset. We hope that you like it and that you'll continue to watch, especially if you're going to be taking the Hiset soon. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for joining us.